Well, I guess everyone, at least I do, learns something new every day. I'm back as a storyteller, and it's really interesting after having a very shallow debate with one of my relatives on Facebook. I come to work here at the college, and there's an old gentleman, maybe in his 50s, 60s, I really can't tell, but last year I saw him. He was an artist. He had done his first charcoals in his life, and he did them well. Then a couple of weeks ago, he had a paper about things like personality types, motivation, something, and I had to tell him that as I read them, I was impressed. His conversation began with, it's really amazing. I have black friends, and when I talk to them, I never knew some of the things that black people go through. So I just figured, maybe it just didn't happen to me. And when I explained to him that it happens to a lot of black folks, because I've been through it. I remember when I was arrested for drunk disorderly, had never drank in my life. I remember walking past a white church when I was 10 years old, and the lady sicked a dog on me, and I heard her say, "Sick him, nigga boy." I remember walking down the streets when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and white people would drive by and hit you in the back with sticks. I've never forgotten those things, but they were all learning moments. Because one of the things that my grandmother did when she took me on the reservation in 1947, and I said, "Oh, these are white people, and white people mean," she said, "Well, wait till you find out about your daddy's people." And it turns out my daddy's people were Irish. And when I got to Ireland in 1963, and they found out I was a black Irishman, in fact, there was another black Irishman in the town, and they raved about him. But now, all of a sudden, in 1963, when if I touched a white man's drink in the United States, the Irishmen are saying, "If you taste my beer, it'll bring me good luck." I don't even drink. In fact, 1960, when I came home from the military, I was arrested for drunk, disorderly conduct and supposedly harassing a white store owner for 5 months. In that 5 months, I had been in San Antonio, Texas, in training. A lot of black people went along with it. And when a white police officer, my mother showed up with my military orders showing that since February 24th to that day in June, I had been in San Antonio, Texas, the judge turned around and asked some of those blacks who supported the white, "Well, did you know he was out of town?" "Well, I haven't seen him in a while. So if you want me to go along to get along, I'm not the guy. I will never be the guy." When I was a police officer, I saw innocent people in San Quentin, people that the community had told me to talk to. I met innocent kids in CYA, California Youth Authority, because the community people had asked me to talk to them. I suggested in the 60s that the only way that law enforcement would work is if police officers were bonded and insured. And every time you didn't do your job, you had to pay for it. In other words, you'd have to pay for your own insurance and your own. Doctors do it. Doctors pay malpractice insurance. A lot of people pay malpractice insurance, and maybe we need a little malpractice insurance for your black sheriff from Milwaukee, the black guy who was in Baton Rouge, the black guy who's in Miami. Because I don't care what your race is. If you're wrong, I'm not going to support you. I have friends from Vietnam. I have friends from Palestine, Mexico. I have friends from all over the world. That's what I did for a lot of years. After the military, I traveled. And I took my kids out of the country. My daughter's been to Indonesia, the Philippines, England, St. Thomas, Jamaica, Mexico a lot. I have traveled much of Europe, England, France, Germany, Ireland, Spain, been to Turkey. I've been a lot across the world, and every place I go to learn. In my relationships with females, I learn. I have songs, for example, crazy as my wife was, I've got a song for her. I've got a song for other ladies, particularly like Johnny Mathis. There's one lady who really thought she could run a game telling me about how she was molested as a child, and I had to tell her, "I'm listening to you, I'm watching you, and you're a manipulator." Because one of the things that happened when I was a police officer is one of the street hustlers taught me why some women are prostitutes. So I learn in every venue I can. And if you can't teach me anything, you really don't want to spend a lot of time with me, because first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you, well, if you want to live in the 1600s with your religious ideas, Well, you got to hang somebody with wants to live in the 1600s with you. If you want to tell me this story about 6 million Jews in Germany, and I'm saying to you that the 6 million story did not start in Germany, it's written in the Torah, I'm not the guy for you to hang with. If you want to learn, I'm the guy. And so I associate with people who want to learn. You know, my mentors, guys like George Miner. I remember when George Miner told me way back in 1970 that the world is divided into 3 groups: the outlaws, the bandits, and the average citizen. The average citizen I call the common sense majority, because 90% of them are going to do what they're going to do, don't care whether it's right or wrong, because they're not going to learn. I had Lou Dodd. Lou Dodd would punch you in the face, go to see the judge, and if he thought he was under charge, he might punch you in the face again. Bob Jeffrey, the smallest police officer I ever knew, but I watched him in court when 2 police officers, white police officers, planted drugs on a black guy. They asked Bob Jeffrey, at what point did he see the drugs? Bob Jeffrey said, I saw him when they planted them in his pocket. Don Daniels. I watched a white guy beating up on a 64-year-old man who was having an epileptic seizure, and Don walked in and said, if you hit him with that club again, I'm hitting you with mine. Billy Wheeler. When they brought blacks in, he would stand there and watch to make sure you didn't do any damage to those black people. I came from a warrior generation. I went into the military to learn to fight. I took boxing. I took karate. I was a pretty darn good athlete. But one thing I don't do is suck up to people who want to live the way that they've been living for the last 500 years and want to keep on doing what they've been doing, even though the results have not changed. I don't make excuses for my life. I do what must be done. I don't cower to threats. And I don't want to listen to your nonsense. If you come at me, there's an old saying, come correct, you get respect. Come wrong, you get the gong.